Good evening, and a very warm welcome to all of you tuned in to a very special edition of TUP Career Café. My name is Jigyasa Jain, and I'll be your host for today. TUP, or the Ultimate Pitch, is a competition which allows bright young talent across B schools of India to showcase their uninhibited entrepreneurial spirit. As an organization, Reliance has always believed in thinking big, thinking fast, and thinking ahead. And that's exactly what we are looking for in our future talent too. We are looking for change makers, trendsetters, and innovators who are willing to take that first step to make a difference with one idea at a time. Moreover, for those who dare to dream and make it to the national finals of TUP, you can stand a chance to win the pre-placement interviews for the prestigious Reliance Emerging Leaders program. Now, while all of that sounds very exciting, sometimes the start of something big can be quite daunting. So, this unique career cafe is for you, our future leaders. Let's use this 1 hour to learn and have a conversation about careers in the track of your choice, that is general management. And to help you along, we have leaders from Reliance who are here to talk about exciting opportunities at Reliance, their own professional journeys, as well as to share some useful insights into the track that you are interested in. We would request all of you to please feel free to post your questions in the chat window, and we shall try to take some of them up during this session. Let me introduce you all to the leaders for today. First up, I'd like to introduce Anant Narayan Hariharan. Anant Narayan is an engineering graduate from BITS Pilani who has done his post-graduation in management from IIM Calcutta. He started off his career in textile industries at Madhura Coats with various functional roles across the organization. He joined Reliance Trends in 2007 and was a part of the starting team. He helped set up the supply chain for Trends. He later joined Titan as the head of buying and merchandising for brand Tanishq and helped drive the brand back to growth path with a huge focus on driving the aspiration and product pricing strategy of the brand. He rejoined Reliance in 2017 to take up the initiative of setting up Agio business as the fashion and lifestyle arm of New Commerce Initiative. Agio business was successfully conceptualized and launched in a 2-year time frame in 2019, and it's already on a rapid growth path. Thank you, Ananta, for joining in.
Thank you, Jigyasa, and a warm welcome to everybody on the show here.
Thanks, Ananta. Next up, we have Shankar Jayaraman. He is a senior VP with Geo Platforms Limited.
Hey everyone, look forward to this interaction. A warm welcome to everyone again.
Hi, Shankar. So let me tell you something more about Shankar. He has a 20 years of work experience in software and product development with 6 years at Geo. Currently, he is heading technology and product management at Geo Platforms for AdTech, gaming, voice assistant, voice and video communication, and other services. Welcome, Shankar.
Thanks, Jigyasa.
And we have one more esteemed panelist with us today. He's Shridhar Prasad. Shridhar is a group lead for strategic initiatives and managing governance for the O2C business. A chemical engineer by graduate, he joined Reliance in 2006 as graduate trainee and worked in operation in various capacities. He further went on to do an MBA from IIM Calcutta and worked in various functions like technology, head of planning and scheduling of a petchem site, and as a production manager. He later moved to the director's office in 2018 and has been supporting in various manufacturing initiatives since then. Welcome, Sridhar.
A very good evening. Thank you, Jigyasa, and very good evening to each one of you. And looking forward for a next exciting 1 hour. Thank you.
Welcome Ananta, Sridhar, and Shankar to this career cafe. It's such a pleasure to have you. To start off, let's have a quick round of introduction where you can tell us about a little about yourself and your professional journey so far. Let's start with Ananta.
Thanks, Jigyasa. So I think you kind of have already recounted the journey that I've had, but I think I'd like to put it as a set of unfortunate and queer incidences that brought me to where I am. Right. So I think I have always been a student at heart, and Jigyasa, who works with me, knows that I make a pest of myself asking questions all around. That I've never gone out of school, right, guys? I have always been at school, and I've always been the person that you always label as the DCP guy at the corner who puts desperate class participation. So I've always been that guy, and I'm unashamedly admitting it here. But I think that's one of the things that's got me where I am. I never was an operations graduate, moved into operations because I complained bitterly about it. Somebody decided that, if you complain bitterly about it, why don't you do something about it? So that became the start of my operations journey. Moved into business again because I thought it was a great opportunity, and somebody said, if you think it's a great opportunity, why don't you do it? So, like I said, Reliance is one place where I found that opportunity can meet potential very easily, and if you are the right kind of potential and you are willing to kind of hunt for the right kind of potential, I think things happen here more than any other organization that I've seen, at least from a personal standpoint. I have moved across three functions here in the main, right, and I moved from operations, a core operations role in logistics and supply chain, to a category management role, to now heading a business. So, like I said, opportunity meets potential, or a set of unfortunate incidents, whichever way you want to call it. Been with the organization now across both my stints in roughly about 10 years. Enjoy working here. Wake up really charged and make life miserable for a lot of people around me, I guess. But that's the way I am. Married, wife works in an organization called Tyson Foods. She's a HR professional as well. And my son's kind of navigating first year in college. That's all about me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ananta. Shankar, why don't you tell us about your journey, your professional
Sure.
journey so far?
Yeah, sure, Jigyasa. So I started as a software developer way back in 2001. Started in Motorola, moved on to Samsung, spent quite a bit of time there, and then joined Geo about 6.5 years ago. Love building products, built out quite a few products over the years in Samsung and right now at Geo. Right now at Geo, I'm focusing on technology development and product management across a bunch of core services: ad tech, monetization, gaming, voice assistant, communication, data. These are some of the things that I work on. And as you know, in this technology space, everything changes on a daily basis. You need to keep track of what's happening out there, continuously pivot your journey, continuously improve, continuously build for improving customer experience, bringing in growth, etc., etc. It's been a very exciting journey at Reliance. Last 6.5. I mean, I can't believe that it's actually 6+ years since I joined, because there's so much happening, so much technology out there, and so much that we are building over the years. So I've loved this journey, and hopefully this will continue as it is, and we'll go on to build a lot more products.
Thanks, Shankar. Sridhar, why don't you go ahead and tell us about your professional journey?
Yeah, sure, Jigyasa. Yeah, well, I started as a GET in this organization straight out from college, and I'm still the same student as I was some 15 years ago, and the learning has never ended here. I mean, I think in professional life, the learning never ends. I mean, that has been my take, and you need to have a delta. I mean, that's how I have kept my mantra of delta of knowledge. So you keep around with the most knowledgeable people, so that you drain them out and take the entire knowledge with you. And so that has been my journey, and then I've been moving around various gamuts of manufacturing. I mean, I would say I forced myself to different functions. So that was my curiosity to learn the entire, operation. I mean, how an organization works. So that was the curiosity I had. So after spending a good 60 months in the core operations at the shop floor, I quickly realized that I need to step up, and then went on to do my MBA from IIM Calcutta, and then joined back. And then that's when, it's been now 9 years since post my MBA, and I've moved around various functions quickly, maybe not staying anywhere for more than maybe 30-35 months. That's how been my path to this date, and the last 4 years have been really exciting. So that's it.
Great. I think a lot of opportunities, risk taking, and going beyond the comfort zone. I think I can somehow try to summarize the journey of all three of you. So now let's talk a little about the businesses each one of you is currently working in. Reliance being a federation of diverse businesses, I'm sure our audience is keen to understand a little bit more about the various kind of opportunities that are available in general management at Reliance, and especially in the businesses you all are in. So, Ananta, why don't you tell us about Agio business?
Thanks, Jigas. So, Agio business, like you kind of pointed out, giving me an opportunity to segue in, is something that we started off roughly about 3 years ago. We are in the third year of our existence. Most of you would know that retail started off in Reliance way back in 2006, and since then, Reliance has already kind of moved on to become the largest retailer in the country by a big stretch, right? And that's on all dimensions, be it turnover, be it in terms of number of stores, be it in terms of million square feet. However, one part that I think Reliance has become growingly aware about and has made concrete movements towards is the fact that Reliance and other entrants in the organized part of the industry, including e-commerce, still contribute to less than 25% of the overall industry. 75% of the overall industry in the fashion and lifestyle space still remains unorganized, right? And therefore, the opportunity that presented itself was to kind of look at what we can do in the unorganized space and come up with a total business proposition from end to end there. And that's what the team started out doing in 2017. Like Jigyasa, you put it very aptly when you were describing my journey here. The journey has been very, very, what do I call, going back to school is the right way to describe it. Because I think the more we get into it, the more we realize that we don't know much about this world at all. We are all people who come from the organized retail background, and we bring whole lots of learning from there. But when we come into this place, it's almost like you leave your shoes at the door and you come in because you've got to really walk a path that you've not really learned before. We really had to unlearn a whole lot of stuff. But the business itself has fundamentally been objectively oriented towards one large thing. And that is, in a way, to transform, to organize, and to mobilize the unorganized sphere. The new commerce enterprise that Reliance is embarking on across multiple spheres, not only in the case of fashion and lifestyle, which I have the privilege to kind of be a part of, is aimed at doing the same across the unorganized sphere. Right? The unorganized sphere today consists of nearly 12 crore merchants. Right, and there is enough and more scope there in terms of organization, in terms of transformation, in terms of sheer value addition, given the fact that we are one of the largest players in the industry in terms of all aspects, be it in terms of merchandising, be it in terms of sourcing, be it in terms of commodities, everything. We play a very large role in the industry per se. So the value that we are seeking to add here is to go beyond actually just becoming a sourcing partner, which many of these traditional models have actually looked at, to move to becoming a pivotal retail partner. Because what we believe we bring to the enterprise is actually retail expertise. We have been successful retailers. We are the country's largest retailer. And we've become that way by sheer dint of all the expertise that we managed to gather in terms of category, in terms of retail practices, customer policies, and so on and so forth. We believe that the retailer actually brings the heart of his relationship, and that is the strongest bond that he has with his customer. And that we do not want to kind of change, because we believe that is the essence of the unorganized sector, and that will remain, that will stand the test of time. So the business model that we are actually setting to make out and to kind of, let us say, charter is to actually create a partnership with the retailer and to kind of revitalize the unorganized trade. The unorganized trade has taken a couple of hits, right? Between demonetization and GST in the last 5 years, there have been a couple of big dents that the unorganized sector has gone through, but it has still managed to survive. It's like a phoenix that manages to rise up from the ashes every time. Right? So the idea here is to use technology, and that's where Shankar and a whole host of other people are ideally working on, to be able to use technology as a transformative influence, to be able to bring about this change in the unorganized sector. And that is what this business is all about. Like I said, it's been a huge amount of unlearning. It's been a huge amount of relearning. we're facing challenges that I think we could only describe, that we could have faintly imagined when we started off, right? And it's been exciting to say the least. That's the simple way that I put it.
Thanks, Ananta. And I think I'm fortunate enough to experience all the madness. So thanks for that opportunity. Shankar, let's listen from you about more about your business.
Geo, where do I start? I think everybody knows Geo. I think if I start talking about what Geo has achieved in India over the past 10 years, I think this will, I mean, I need a lot more time, but I'll try to keep it crisp. So, we launched 5 years ago, and we basically turned the whole telecom market upside down. But Geo is not just a telco, right? While we are the largest telecom player today in the country, we are a lot more. We are Geo platforms. We are a core technology and platform company with emphasis on building cutting edge tech to solve all sorts of business problems. Uh, it's not just business problem, but also build consumer facing applications for India. We are into apps spanning video, music, communication, gaming, social capabilities, health, commerce, you name it, we are there in every space. We have a huge portfolio of mobility and enterprise and fixed line devices. We are big in IoT, we are big in 5G. We use machine learning and deep learning to to do predictive analytics and figure out solutions for some key business problems. We are using blockchain solve some of our key use cases. So, I mean, the tech goes on and on, right? And Geo Platforms as a company is there in all of it. And you name the tech, we are using it to build something or the other. While there's a lot of engineering in what I just said, but it's not just engineering, it's just one part of it. What do the as management graduates, management professionals here, there's a lot more that one needs to do from a general management perspective. This includes product management, business development, business operations, product strategy, marketing, growth strategy. There's a whole list of management capabilities that one needs to look at. It's not just about engineering and building a product, but how do you make sure that you take that product out there, build the best customer experience. It could be an enterprise customer, it could be a B2C end customer. But how do you make sure that you are catering to the upmarket consumer sitting in Mumbai, as well as to some guy sitting in Assam using the same application? How do you make sure that you give the best experience? And end of the day, how do you make sure that you also generate the right kind of growth, right kind of experience, and to make sure that there is stickiness across all our services? So huge opportunity to build and grow here. I believe as a company, we are just scratch the surface so far in terms of what we can do. There's lots more in the works, and I welcome all the enterprising guys, entrepreneurs, skills that people have to come and build around with us and take this journey forward.
Thanks, Shankar. Sridhar, why don't you tell us about the business you are in?
Yeah, I come from O2C, one of the oldest or the parent business of Reliance when it started, and then it's a very wide arena in which the O2C business operates. As the name itself says, it's oil to chemicals. So right from refining to petrochemicals to polyesters, and the way I said the order is refinery, petchem, and polyesters, but then Reliance traveled backward. We started from polyesters and then moved on to petchem and then refining, and we kept on expanding in all these areas. And there's a lot of stuff that happens in the entire manufacturing. Manufacturing is the core here in O2C, and it starts right from feedstocks, procurement of various materials, and parallelly we have many projects, many technical advancements that happens. And where all it culminates is where the general management's role comes up. And and I would say it has been exciting. It's not only that we get to know about some technology or more of a technical stuff, but we also get to know a lot of people related issues as well. I mean, how an organization needs to be structured. I mean, the curiosity, when I said earlier also, I've always been curious that how an organization works. So it's for an organization, people is more important. Of course the technology, it's all comes, but then people are more important. How do you spot the right talent within as well as outside? So it's been the general management role in O2C has been very wide, I would say. I mean, one needs to be more technically sound as well as understand the general issues as well. I mean, so that which helps in coordinating multiple functions. We have multiple functions, right, from be it IT, be it procurement, be it technology, and the reliability parts. I mean, a lot of stuffs that go around, and it's really fun. And as Jigyasa somewhere said about madness, so that exists, I presume, with us as well. So we wake up. I mean, we wake up to become mad, and then we sleep. So that's how it has been. The journey, I would say, is exciting. And for anybody who's entrepreneurial and who has a passion, I mean, the success is just at the tip of it. I mean, it's only that you can just come and taste. You need to be passionate. That's what I would say.
Sure.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm sure the students are very excited of all the wonderful opportunities that lie ahead to learn and grow. Speaking of growth, our motto at Reliance is growth is life. And this stems from our fundamental ethos of constantly thinking, like Sridhar pointed out, being entrepreneurs in order to stay ahead of the curve. So, can you tell us more about this entrepreneurial zeal? Where is it seen in your day to day work? So, Sridhar, why don't you go ahead first and let us know?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my way of looking at entrepreneurship is nothing but ownership. I mean, you become an owner, and it's not about just being an owner. So an owner has to constantly learn something. I mean, he cannot say that, "Chalo, I have invested something and then I get things done." So it cannot happen. So the ownership comes along with the learning that has to be constantly, and then keeping well ahead of the curve. And to me, I would say this learning can come from anyone and any. I mean, from the surrounding. So the I mean, the skill is in identifying where that learning comes from. I mean,
Sure.
what interests you and where it comes from. So that's what I would say. I mean, entrepreneurship, again, I would reiterate, it's only ownership and then constant learning. Once you stop learning, you can't become an entrepreneur, and then once you can't become entrepreneur, you can't grow.
So, learn, unlearn, and I think relearn. So,
Yeah,
so Shankar, why don't you tell us about
yeah,
how the
exactly.
entrepreneurial zeal is seen in your day to day work?
So I would give a personal example or two on this particular entrepreneurial thinking. Uh, Look, I joined Reliance for a particular product. And we don't need to necessarily discuss what the product is now, but it was related to the communication space. But I am doing a lot more today, and the organization has given me that opportunity. While what do entrepreneurs do today? If you look at what startups, startups ecosystem is huge in India. What do? They come up, they have an idea, they they do a prototype, go look for investors, right? Go sell it basically, right? You look for investors, you bring in more people, you use that investment to hire more people, buy tech, whatever, right? You hustle and get things done and expand and become bigger. We've pretty much done that in Geo. Well, you don't have to go and look for investors per se, but you still need to get buy-in. You have a product idea, you take it out, you go showcase to the senior leadership, get their blessing, and then you go hire people, you build it out, you hire the right kind of product managers who can manage the product, build the product, look at growth, etc. I myself have done this at least for 2 or 3 products. It was not an assignment that came to me from top saying that this is the one that you need to execute. Of course, we do that as well. But other than that, if you have the entrepreneurship spirit, if you want to build something, the sky's the limit here. I have myself done it. In fact, even as late as just a few months back, somebody in my team came to me and I see a question here, so that specifically I'm answering to that as well. That an employee in my team came up with this idea that he wants to build something which he believed in and wanted to get some time or build that out. Right? Of course, if the employee is involved in something critical, right? You need to make sure as managers, you need to make sure that how you can give that time. First, you need to be convinced that that's a product that will add value, and then you give that person time and people to build it out, experiment. I mean, the experiments may fail. As product entrepreneurship is all about experimenting, failing, relearning, and improving. A lot of, it's not that every entrepreneur succeeds. The success rate actually very, very low, but you need to continue to experiment. Only if you experiment you will learn. As Sridhar was also saying, learning is a continuous process here. So this product that my team member came up with, that's coming, it's getting built out pretty nicely now, and I have made sure that we give him time as well as people to build that out, of course making sure that all the associated tasks that he was originally involved in are suitably taken care. So I believe there's a lot that of entrepreneurial thinking in the leadership team here. I have got that opportunity myself, and I am sharing that with my team, and I believe this cuts across the organization, and everybody is given this opportunity to hone their entrepreneurial skill, if that's something that they are interested in and are ready to contribute.
Sure. Thanks, Shankar. Ananta, why don't you tell us about the entrepreneurial zeal you see in your day-to-day work?
So I think similar to Shankar, I think I'd like to step back from the question itself, Jigyasa, and say that Reliance at its heart, while it's a massive conglomerate, actually thinks, acts like, and behaves like a startup. In that, it is not one company, right? It is a group of a very large number of startups that have become behemoths. I mean, you take the O2C business, it was a startup. It still behaves like a startup. The amount of work that they are doing in various product categories that are completely off the scale innovations is dramatically different from what you would expect an otherwise mature industry to behave like. Geo, I mean, Shankar talked about the kind of cutting edge stuff that is happening there. Every part of Reliance is actually a small entrepreneurial venture that mushrooms into becoming a behemoth. That is the way Reliance's DNA is. That is the way it approaches businesses. That is the way it approaches technologies. That is the way it approaches even within a business, the way business works on a day-to-day basis. I mean, and it cuts across businesses. It cuts across functions. I mean, I take my case, right? I can't call it entrepreneurial, but operations to category management to heading a business. I mean, this is a journey that you would actually frown at otherwise, right? So, but I was able to kind of take that spirit that I had and make, like Shankar said, a pitch for something. And somebody felt that after having heard me out and seen me, that they believed in me enough to kind of grant me the opportunity. And yes, it is a pitch that you have to make, and your seniors must believe in it. They must actually create a platform, and that platform exists here for you to be able to present it not only to your manager, but to a set of people who will then evaluate it, and then becomes an experiment that you run with, perform, and then scale. Right? So I mean, in Reliance, we have a very popular saying 110 and 100. Right? So it works to the 110 and 100 formula. You do at 1, then you perform at 10, then you scale it up to 100. And that's the way every aspect of business goes here. Every function, every aspect of business goes here. So I think that's the way that you will define an entrepreneurial spirit. Like Shankar rightly pointed out, we don't go pitch to VCs. But our VC is our own, let's say, promoters, and they are tougher than any other VCs to convince. Let me tell you that, right? So they are far more business acumen amongst them than I have seen in most other VCs or any other people that I have come across entirely. So it is equivalent to pitching to maybe 10 VCs to be able to come up with one penny. Not that it is difficult to get that money, but it is important for you to feel the need for that change enough to convince them with your passion and your grit that there is actually something there, right? And they put it. They don't really care two hoots if they're convinced about what you're saying to be able to back you up to the hilt. That is the organization that Reliance is. And once they are convinced, then the foot goes from being first gear to being seventh gear, like Shankar said, in no time at all, right? It just moves from you're asking them questions as to can I move to they're asking you questions saying why hasn't this happened? It's just the blink of an eye. And you can see from the smiles of all my colleagues, it's happened to them, right? So it is a common philosophy across all of Reliance, right? So that's the way Reliance works, and that's how the pace and the growth is life part that you talked about here fundamentally emanates out of an organization like Reliance.
So all the students, thanks Ananta, thank you Sridhar and Shankar. So I think there are a plethora of opportunities available as you all can hear it. So let's travel a little back in time. I would like to know what are some of your fondest memories of campus or corporate life, and moreover, if you could switch places with students who have joined in on this call, what advice would you give your younger self? So, Sridhar, why don't you tell us?
No, there are many such memories. I mean, I would say, I mean, the fondest memories, if I have to say, that the organization has given me opportunities everywhere. I mean, I can recall when I was just about 2.5 years into the industry. I mean, relatively very young then, as far as industry standards. But the moment you try to deliver, or you just show your enthusiasm, the entire leadership, I mean, be it at the shop floor, they back you. I mean, the kind of mentoring that they give you, I mean, I cherish those moments. I still remember one of this was when I was just about 6 months, or maybe 6, 7 months into the industry, just out of college. I mean, I was just wandering around in the office. I mean, in the plant. Then I was. I mean, one of my shifting charges. I mean, he asked me to stay back. I mean, for then it was my time was only 9 to 5. I mean, we used to come in general shift, just go 9 to 5. But then, or I mean, the manufacturing works in shifts. So that was the first time I felt that I was tested on my what to say, the comfort zone. So 9 to 5, it's okay. I mean, 5 o'clock, just wait for bus and move on. But then there was some work that had to be done, and then nobody were there, and then I was the one who was just I mean, I just went in front of him. Maybe I was fortunate today, but then I felt I was unfortunate. But then that day I spent the next 14 hours in the plant working on something. Went back I mean, early 6 o'clock the next day, and then when I came back at 2 o'clock, I felt I became a bit more matured. So because I knew something which many of my peers did not know. Those 14 hours of learning, I would say, I mean, that was tremendous, and that is where I think I still cherish that moment, because had that had not happened, I don't know whether I would have been continuing this organization itself. Because that was something different. I mean, I even till now I cherish that moment. That happened maybe 14, 15 years ago, and I still meet that person, and whenever I meet him, I tell this, that knowingly or unknowingly, you pushed my bar. I was asked to climb some 40-50 meter tall columns. I mean, which would have been the most, I mean, not a kind of a job to do. But then the learning was tremendous. So there are many such memories that I can cherish. And then as I grew, maybe 5 years down the line, I mean, this one activity gave me multiple other openings. I mean, I was given in charge of handling one of the toughest jobs in what we call as a shutdown or maintenance activities. So handling about 5,000 odd jobs in a span of 30 days. I mean, that's something tremendous. And I took it open heart, with chalo, I'll do everything kind of. When that was the kind of energy, when this energy also not they did not come within. I mean, that energy is in our organization. I mean, that vibes is here. So the moment you start doing something, the organization gives you back 10 times or 100 times. And then it's a challenge between you and the organization. You give me, chalo, I do it. So I mean, each of these memories, I would say, only uh, what to say, meets at one point, that is called learning and opportunities. So each time you are given something new, and then you prove that, and then you are given something new. So the organization, willingly or you, even if you want or you don't want, it tests you. And it's within the individual whether you want to take up that challenge or no. But once you are proven, I mean, as Ananta at some point was saying, I mean, the organization, he was just saying the other thing, that it's about convincing the VCs, right? So here also it's about convincing the management or the organization. Once the organization is convinced, I mean, it takes you to places where you can't even expect. So that's how my journey has been. maybe, I mean,
Great.
if I have to reflect myself, I would say that I could have learned a bit more in each of those stages. I mean, where I came. So somewhere I still feel maybe I missed some 20-30% of learning, which I should have done. But yeah, I mean, yeah, no regrets, definitely. But then I should have learned a bit more.
That's really humble of you
Yeah,
to
that's
say
all.
that you had some more opportunity to learn. Uh, Thanks, Sridhar. I think those 14 hours definitely changed your life. So, Shankar, why don't you tell us what was your fondest memory?
Uh, I mean, Sridhar had, I think, good fortune of starting his career at Reliance. So, but I did not have that. I worked elsewhere. I joined over 6 years back. While I do have a lot of memories on, and of course, 20 years back, the kind of information available to a fresh person joining any company is very different from what it is today. I mean, the kind of, uh, thing that we are going here, right? The kind of opportunities, the kind of learning, the kind of visibility that students have today, right? In terms of what they can choose, what options they have is very different from how it was 20-25 years ago, when information was limited. You have to, it was just a guess on what works best, and you take it. But of course, once you join as a fresh person, at least for me, I had no inkling of what how a corporate life is. But you learn on the job. But when it comes to Fondest memory, I would like to stick to my initial interaction and experience at Reliance. While it is just 6 years ago, but I think fondest memory has been during the first year, when I got to interact a lot more related to my product with our chairman and his core team, and the kind of feedback and ownership that they that they spoke with on what we are building, how much knowledge they had. I mean, while I was on the ground and building stuff, we had teams working on it. How much hands-on they were on what each of these product needs to do, and how much they are willing to get involved was really eye-opening for me. But of course, once we launched the service 5 years back, and the way we celebrated the first my first 10 million customer, 50 million customer, 100 million customer, very it was all across the organization. It was, I think, one of the best times, at least in Reliance, in terms of how we were given ownership, and how every such milestone was celebrated in a huge way. And that, of course, that at that time, our focus was on building Geo. Now that's, there are lots more products going on in parallel, and every such product goes the same way, in terms of ensuring that product gets built first, business contributions are identified, and suitably rewarded as well.
Thanks, Shankar. Ananta, tell us about your campus or corporate life journey. Some fond memory.
So campus is a whole host of fond memories, always for all of us, right? So I was recently back at IMCAL last year, Jan, for our 25th anniversary, and I still found the place relatively unchanged. I'm sure I met quite a few people there, interacting with the younger generation, so to speak, right? Because I'm qualified enough to talk about the age gap and call them a younger generation right now. Makes you feel like that you've kind of, let's say, traveled places, literally. And you kind of got left behind when it comes to a whole lot of other things. I mean, the trip back to BITS also, I mean, the amount of changes back in the campus there is amazing for me to kind of see. Memories of campus are always very fun. But I think the biggest advice that I would give to the younger version of myself is, I think I never had the patience. And the first thing that I would advise the younger self of mine is basically be patient. And I don't think I had that in my life at all. And I think the first thing that working has taught me is to start becoming patient. You can't be the angry young man charging here and there everywhere, like windmills against, the lances against windmills kind of a thing. It doesn't work. While you can continue to sustain that for a while, it just makes you frustrated more than anything else. And I was, at the early part of my career, it became a big kind of, let's say, learning for me. The second thing that I think I found out, and I kind of, let us say, and this is contrary to what most people would say, I would say to the younger version of mine is, while I asked a lot of questions everywhere, I think the theoretical frameworks that I learned in college still come to use. A lot of people actually say that they don't use 90% of what they learn in college. I find that I still use a lot of it. Right? And I'm sure maybe that's not a private opinion, maybe that's a commonly agreed on opinion. I would have told myself to concentrate more in class rather than asking questions alone. Right? So those are things that I would have given as advice to the younger version of myself. But I think the fond memories when I actually look back on my, let's say, 2 journeys in Reliance. Um, I remember my day 2 in the first stint in Reliance, and Sriram was my boss then. So he says, and he used to call me young man then. He calls me young man now, though I've turned 50, right? So he calls me into his cabin and says, "Young man, we need to set up warehouses. So why don't you pick up your bags and go around and fix his warehouses?" That was my remit, right? Like that's day 2 in the organization. So I actually spent the next 45 days on the road. Literally, right? I had never designed a warehouse in my life. And so that was like, like the point that, Sridhar made, it is about the kind of, let us say, challenge that it throws to you and what it makes you realize at that particular point of time. That was, for me, an amazing 45 days, right? Things that I would have never imagined myself doing, I did in those 45 days. And similarly, coming back to my current journey, the opportunity of doing like a 9-month research, coming back with a business pitch and pitching it to the chairman and the promoters was for me like a mind-blowing experience. I mean, you have to be part of that to understand the, let's say, spine tingling that you get, right? You don't expect what they want from you, and the kind of questions they ask was something that I literally. So it makes me think, why can't I think like them? Right, and of course they think like that. That's where they are and where I am today, right? So, but it really is inspirational for me. That was one of my most life-changing experiences in a sense, right? So those are things that I really look back on fondly, and not really fondly. I really cherish those parts of my experience.
And I keep thinking whenever I'm presenting to Ananta, how does he think like that? Why can't I think like that? So I think I keep telling this to Dominic. So thank you everybody to share your journeys. So one question which we would like to take up, which our students want to know, what is the kind of leadership style which is mostly followed at Reliance, and how to develop skills in managing internal stakeholders effectively? Ananta, would you like to take this one? Do we
Sure.
have a kind of leadership style? And
No, I think given the fact that we've talked about it being an entrepreneurial culture, each manager sets their own style. I don't think there is an organization code, there is an organizational DNA that binds us all, and there is a set of values that we all subscribe to, we all own, and we all kind of hold up. But beyond that, I don't think the organization stipulates. No organization of the size that we are can stipulate how a manager must deal with his subordinates. Right, and therefore it is left to, in fact, I would say, right, for example, it is at every level inside the organization. If I was to kind of compare the 3 verticals of Reliance Retail itself, because I know more about them than the other businesses per se, I would say grocery is run totally differently as a team. The kind of management styles they have is totally different from digital, is totally different from, let's say, fashion, right? And within fashion, if you look at trends as an offline format versus Ajio as an online format, and Ajio business as a let's say the e-commerce, new commerce format, we are totally different as organizations, and it fundamentally depends on how you as leaders portray yourself. So I would actually answer this person's question by saying it depends on the leader. The organization only holds you accountable for what you commit to deliver and how you commit to deliver it. Everything else is left up to you. The only part that they stipulate, and that's very, very clear in the organizational construct, is a set of values. There is a code of conduct. There is an ethical code. And those are things that we must imbibe and we must subscribe to in everything that we do. Right? We must not disrespect individuals. Those are unwritten and written rules that we follow. Other than that, there is nothing that says that I must stand up and wish my subordinates every morning. No. There is nothing that says I must put an arm around his or her shoulder, or that I should not put an arm around his or her shoulder from the Porsche point of view. Yes, there are those kind of constructs, definitely, right? So, but there is no prescription. I don't think I've come across anybody telling me how to run my team so far, nor anybody criticizing me for the way I run my team, as long as I manage my team and deliver the results without kind of suffering a very high attrition, delivering a very high morale and engagement in my team. Nobody is actually, let's say, worried about the kind of culture that you have. And like I said, it is a microcosm of organizations. So the organization is a huge platform. If you ask me, Reliance is a true scale platform, which consists of so many different parts, which we call ecosystems that are completely self-reliant. And over a period of time, you will all start seeing the synergies that will come out of this, right? There is a very large platform integration that is actually there. But that is the way this organization behaves, and that's the way we as leaders behave. The way I work with my team is totally different from the way others work with their team. So there isn't one leadership style, I would say. At least that's my experience. I'm not sure, Shankar, whether you or Sridhar, whether you have a similar kind of a point of view.
I completely agree with you. Every team, every manager is pretty much independent on how it can be run. Whatever you said about retail works in Geo as well. And in fact, I also see a question that how do you manage internal stakeholders effectively? I think simple answer to that: communication. Have an open communication. Make sure all stakeholders are taken along. Right? You don't operate in silos. When you operate in silos, that's when not everybody is aware. That's when you end up with communication problems. You end up with disagreements, etc. In fact, disagreements are great. Disagreements means that you are doing something. When you have disagreements in the team or across teams, as long as you are open to understand and agree or disagree, and understand and look at things objectively, look at why something is being disagreed, and not necessarily that make it an interpersonal issue, right? So it all works. So as long as you're keeping communication open and not operate in silos, I believe there's nothing more to it than managing internal stakeholders effectively.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think I can't agree more with Ananta and Shankar. And me coming from O2C, even in O2C, we have refining, petchem, and polyesters. And if you see the leaders of each of these verticals, I mean, the way, the styles is absolutely different. I mean, but the things gets done. So as Ananta said, what matters is what you deliver and how you deliver, and within the framework of values and behaviors. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. And I've been lucky enough to work across R&D, petrochemicals, textiles, and now retail. So I can totally relate to it. So thank you. Let's take up the next question. The students who have joined us today for this career cafe uh, are all aspirants of general management. So, what, according to you, are the top three recommendations for these students to hone their skills in this area? This could be books, interesting courses, or even movies you really think would be useful for them. So, Shankar, let's start with you. Tell us.
I don't know about top three. I mean, books or courses. But what I can say is I'm big on what's happening out there, especially the Indian startup ecosystem. There are lots and lots of stories and articles on the different entrepreneurial journeys of what are startups. I mean, all these unicorns, the struggles they went through, how they hustled to build a startup first, right? I mean, you have, and what they have eventually turned out. And it's not just the success stories. There are lots and lots of stories and articles out there on how many of those ventures did not take off. There's lots more to learn from that than actually the success stories. Success stories, yes, but that's probably 1 on 10 or even smaller. But it's a failure stories where you can learn. I am big on that. I myself, read up a lot of all these entrepreneurial journeys and how something succeeded and why something did not succeed, why it failed. And that's where you learn and you apply that, because end of the day we are also in this journey where we are building products, building capabilities, and we are working like a startup, right, as Ananta was saying, right? So there's a lot to learn from that. And India as a country, we have the last 10 years has seen huge wealth generation in the technology space in India. And at least Geo, we are in that space. And there's a lot more that we can learn and apply right from, what's happening in India. So I don't have any specific books or movies to talk about, but this is what I read and I learn, and I believe that's applicable to everyone too.
Thanks, Shankar. Sridhar, tell us your top three recommendations.
No, I think maybe as an organization, I will go with Shankar. We don't have any boundaries as such. I mean, like top three or something. I mean, it happens. I mean, I would say be passionate. I mean, that's the only thing. Be passionate, and one needs to be curious. And as Ananta said, I mean, we need to go back to schools daily. I mean, because being in a general management, we need not know some stuffs to the core of the technology thing, but then it operates on first principles. So the first principles comes only from the school books. I mean, when I say school books, it's only the thoughts. I mean, not in the books actually. The knowledge that you gain from the school, the ambience that you have in the school or in a classroom. I mean, that is where I would say that maximum curiosity is there. I mean, uh, I have kids of 6 years old, so I can relate. I mean, the curiosity that they generate. So I mean, we need to carry that curiosity, and keep asking those first principle questions, and try to answer on the same. And I really don't have any specific book or a movie to actually say, because I mean, frankly speaking, there's a lot of learning that comes from the surroundings
From
that
work.
I am, from the work. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's I mean, ocean is something small, I would say. I mean, each and every minute thing you get to learn. I get to interact with the directors, and then as Ananta was saying, I mean, why can't I ask such kind of a question? I mean, why did not it come to me? I mean, that hurts actually at times. I mean, why
I
was I
agree.
not? So I mean, I think Shankar would also agree. I mean, that is why, I mean, I think I'm not able to relate to any movie or a book or something, because what the knowledge that has to come is coming from the organization and my surroundings. And there are a lot of stories that I can relate, but then, yeah, I mean, that's how I would say. I mean,
So I,
the only thing I've learned from my leaders here, and everybody is a leader, is to always be curious, and you ask those questions. Even, in fact, I recently I mean, I had to give feedback on myself, and then there was a 360-degree feedback that went on. So one thing that has transformed within me in the last 4 years is my way or my style of asking questions. So that has improved. So I would say, I mean, that has come only from the first principles. So I mean, we need to go back to schools.
sure. Thanks, Sridhar. Ananta, tell us your recommendations for the students. Anything on the top of your mind?
I do not know whether I should call them recommendations, but there are a few things that I go back to is, like the famous quote in "You Got Mail," right? Back to the bleachers or back to the mattresses, and So I have a few things that I keep going back to, and I find a lot of what Sridhar described as common sensical framework of information that comes to me from there. One movie that's left a very, very what I would call lasting impression on me is this movie of Brad Pitt called Moneyball. Right, it's a great movie about how you don't need 12 Sachin Tendulkars to make a team or 11 Sachin Tendulkars to make a team. You need to focus on what aspects of performance that you want and how to extract the right kind of talent to be able to secure that kind of performance. Right, so I really place a lot of value. It's an older movie, not really a new one, but I believe it gives you a complete framework of understanding performance that is dramatically different from superhero performance, right? And that puts you into a very different frame of mind. Coming to the aspects of business, I think Rama Bijapurkar's "We Are Like That Only" is a book that I think I read it every year. Right, almost every year I reread that book because I find that every time I reread it, I find something different about India. And many of the things that I find I practice today are actually things that I have understood from that book. And what C.K. Prahalad talked about as the Indian economy per se. So I go back to that book. It's almost like my annual sabbatical of Lord of the Rings, right? So the once in a year reading is Lord of the Rings, and once in a year reading is Rama Bijapurkar's "We Are Like That." So it's like that. So those are things that I believe I would actually give to any person who is entering into any kind of an organization, because like people have described here, it comes from a very commonsensical perspective of economy, business, consumer. It doesn't talk about it from a framework that is ready made. It just exposes you to thinking, and it allows you to kind of drift along, understand, and make up your own ways of kind of taking it forward. So I love those kind of experiences in that sense, and that's what I think these few instances that I've quoted have given me.
Thank you, Ananta. Students, I hope you are taking notes since these tips are certainly useful for you. Now, continuing with the theme of learning, I think one of the biggest teachers in the recent past has been the disruption that the world has witnessed due to pandemic. Work certainly has changed, the way we learn has changed, and everyone had to quickly adapt. Can you all tell us how things have changed for you at work, and what advice would you give to students to thrive in the new normal? Shankar, why don't you go first and tell us how pandemic has changed?
Well, while constant FaceTime is a great way to engage with the team, I think the last 1.5 years has been very different. In fact, I have not been to office in the last 18-20 months. But while there was an initial shock, but I think we adapted very quickly. The Zooms and the Meet and Teams have been a saving grace, and mostly on calls, of course, with camera on and all that. I get to hear that you haven't changed your curtain for the last 6 months or something like that. Same green curtain or the stuff like that. But otherwise, we are with. We're constantly engaging, constantly collaborating with our team. There are tools available to even whiteboard. I mean, a lot of our work gets done through whiteboarding, right? You take an idea, you want to look at flows, you want to see how things interact, etc., etc. While people sitting together in a meeting room sometimes gets things done faster, but I think as a company we have adopted well, and I think if I really look at productivity, it hasn't really gone down at all compared to what it was 18 months ago. So we've been doing well, and of course, given that this also enables people to work from where they are, you don't need to be in Mumbai or Bangalore alone, right? People, there are lots of, and if I really look at it, my team is spread. I'm very certain that 80% of my team is spread across all the states in India, right? Although I have even people sitting outside the country as well for a short period of time. So, but productivity wise, we are good. We are connected. All you need is internet. All you need is geo to make sure that you are connected and you're able to deliver. What yeah, as such, what the fresh management graduates can do is in this aspect, well, you may you will have to communicate more. I mean, once you, any organization that you join, initially you will have a mentor, you will have a manager, line manager, second level manager, whatever, right? So these are people, and mentor especially, and your peers, you will be meeting them on a daily basis, face to face. But that's not something that will happen. I mean, I'm assuming that we continue in the same mode for some time, but you still need to communicate. Make sure that you keep the communication channel open. Talk to your mentors and peers at least on a daily basis. Make sure you continue to talk to your line manager and others as well. Communication is key. I think as long as you are communicating and not just waiting for instructions, waiting for somebody to tell you what to do and you just respond to that, that's when things don't work out great. As long as you are communicating as well, I think there shouldn't be any issue in terms of collaboration or having a productive conversation with anyone.
Thanks, Shankar. Ananta, what's your take on how pandemic has changed work, and any advice to the students?
So I think we are inherently a technology business across all streams of the company, right? I think one of the things that Reliance prides itself on is its passion for technology. I mean, if you see the O2C business, we run a Jamnagar factory with number of employees that you can count on almost fingertips, right? So it's like that. So technology is at the heart of everything that we do. So for us, one of the things that I think we have actually seen with COVID is that we've gone back to technology as the mainstay of business. While technology used to be the driver of business, I think technology has become the mainstay of business. It's become the way we do business now. As opposed to being one of the significant drivers, it has become the way we do business. So I think COVID has brought that kind of a silent but very, very effective transformation in this organization. Many of the people outside Reliance think of Reliance as an old world organization. But to think of an organization that employs directly and indirectly almost 1 million people across its premises, for it to move into a completely digitized working environment in a period of no less than 5 months is a transformation that I think many of the people here in the audience wouldn't even be able to imagine. Right, you're talking about a million people across sites that we are talking about, right? And businesses and instances, the number of locations we handle. So that kind of a transformation is what we have actually managed to engineer through the period of COVID. And some parts of it, I think Reliance is like many of the things that we've described. Reliance is an organization that learns, moves, and adapts. So already you see the organization thinking like a tech company and saying, do we really need to work from office anymore on an ongoing basis? These are not questions that we really would have encountered maybe 18 months ago, but today we are actively engaging in conversations that are actually cornered around these kind of things. So it is in the nature of the transformative change that I think COVID has brought these kind of changes upon us. We would have anyway changed. I believe as an organization, Reliance is an organization that reinvents itself almost once in a decade. The organization completely goes through a what you call a rebirth, right? But COVID has brought upon us maybe the second rebirth within a decade. And that I think has been the big change that COVID has brought upon us. Styles of working have become, I think, we have had to learn styles of working. And I think I would completely echo with what Shankar said in terms of communication, because when you are not face to face, you are not really even able to see whether the person is even there in the conversation. I mean, I pity those professors who are trying to teach online to students, right? You don't even know whether the person has slept off in class, right? Because nobody's asking questions. I see my son attending class in college, right? And they are in those muted audio calls. And if I was a prof there, I would be dreading what the people are chatting about me behind my back, right? Because that's the way colleges go and classrooms go. You'll be passing chits, but I don't need to pass chits anymore. I've got active WhatsApp and Discord chats that are going all around. But I think the biggest thing about the current framework of working is about putting your hand up and saying, I want to know this. Because in the digitized framework, the one big thing that people have learned is that if you don't ask, right, you don't know. What distance is proven to us is that we really need to put ourselves out there. So one key, let's say, input to the people is, again, going back to something that I am guilty of, is don't be hesitant to ask. Right? Because if you don't ask, conversations will just continue their ebb and flow, and you will be a side spectator who will be ignored. Because in this framework, especially in the digitized world, it is very difficult to kind of be center stage unless you're part of the conversation. And therefore, what Shankar says in terms of communication, I think is of paramount importance to anybody in any stream, in any organization right now. Otherwise, the learning stops, the participation stops. You don't even feel engaged. We've had employees who complain to us saying they don't even feel engaged as part of the conversation. We have to tell them, listen, come into the conversation. We have to draw people into the conversation. It is that bad. Right? So if you are young folk who are coming into any organization, the single word of advice that Shankar gave you all is the one that you will have to take to heart. It is about putting yourself out there, communicating, asking, seeking, talking. And that's, I think, the way that I would describe.
Sure. Sridhar, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what Shankar and Ananta said, this last 18 months had changed the way that we work. I mean, nobody would have imagined that. Yeah, this would have happened maybe 5 years, but then it happened in less than a week or so. I mean, the way we adapted to working from home and connecting digitally, it would have happened. Maybe it would have taken a long time, but this has taken really almost instantaneously. And the way each one of us, I mean, the entire organization and even the industry itself, I mean, our associates, I mean, our customers, our suppliers, everybody I mean, adapted to this so quickly. And the biggest learning that I had from the initial days, of course, is that I mean, we as an organization are very huge. I mean, we are mammoth actually. And then the way we went on to support our customers so that they can support us back. So I mean, that's one of the biggest learning. I mean, if you are big, try to help others, and then so that they can help you back. So of course, I mean, people would say that it's a vested interest, but no, I mean, it's for an industry. So similarly, even in our organization, each, I mean, there would have been no family where no individual where COVID has not been touched upon. If not in our own family, at least neighbors or some relatives or somewhere. But then each one of must have been touched emotionally as well. And
Sure.
this I see even as an organization, I mean, even professionally also, we need to support each other. I mean, even professionally, I mean, there has been many instances where people come for some kind of an professional advices, be it a career or be it any small advice, and I mean, it's about just support them technically, support them, and uh, only then you get to learn more. I mean, my core in the entire last 1 hour has always been on learning, and then I mean, gaining something. So
Great. Great.
so I
Uh,
think the last 18 months, there's been a lot of technical advancements, opportunities to learn.
sure.
So you learn and then give back. So that,
Thanks, Sridhar. My last question for the day is on the Reliance Emerging Leader Program, or RELP as we call it. RELP provides exposure through a rotation program in year one, as well as various structured learning, networking, and growth opportunities across 2 years and beyond. The it's a gateway for young leaders of tomorrow to join us and drive challenging projects across Reliance Group. This is a group-wide program for management graduates. The RELP involves a 2-year developmental journey with 2 challenging stints in the first year across different businesses and a final role allocation in the second year. These stints and the final role could be across any of our businesses, be it O2C, new energy, retail, geo, and allied businesses. The projects, as well as the final allocation, will be in the track of your choice. In this case, the track is general management, and the kind of projects or roles you can expect would be sales, marketing, branding, product management, product development, consumer insights, market research, data analytics, and strategy. We've structured and personalized learning interventions across the 2-year program to ensure the RELs are groomed to be effective leaders for tomorrow. We also have opportunities for the RELs to network among themselves as well as with leaderships across the group through Coffee Connects and Batch Connects. The program also opens up avenues to accelerated growth and a plethora of learning opportunities across businesses. Can we move on to the next slide, Dwani? We hope you're excited about this program, all you students out there, and about TUP. Like I mentioned before, apart from on campus hiring, those who make it to the national finals of the ultimate pitch stand a chance to bag PPIs to be a part of the Reliance Emerging Leaders program. So, leaders, why don't you all quickly help us summarize your thought on the RELP program? Ananta, we'll go with you.
So I think the way I understood the program, Jigyasa, it's a great opportunity for people to kind of participate in the organization, learn about the various parts, and you kind of experienced it yourself as well. It provides an opportunity under a larger singular platform for people to experience the various parts of the organization, and then most importantly, it allows them to choose where they want to be. In a way, it provides them an opportunity, and this is something that I don't find very often in any kind of a organizational construct where a person actually goes through step one, step two, step three, step four, and kind of get exposed, and then he or she is able to place their hat and say, "I want to be there," and the organization says, "Okay, great, let me give you an opportunity." And then if you change your mind, you can always move on to something else afterwards as well, right? So that's the beauty of the program, because it allows, I believe, people to experience the gamut of things that is there in Reliance, and therefore, and also then make up their mind as to what they want to do. It also, I believe, in a way, exposes people to the various functional aspects within Reliance. I think that's another thing that I find people taking full advantage of in RELP case, let's say elements. And I think between planning, between operations, and you yourself mentioned your journey in terms of where all you've been, I believe that the functions that you've been exposed to are also totally different. Right, in a way. And therefore, it not only gives you an opportunity to look at different parts of the organization, it exposes you to different functions within the different parts. And then, of course, the cherry on top of the cake is that you get to pick where you want to go. So I believe it's a brilliant program in its construct, one that allows young minds to think, evaluate the organization for what it all opportunities it presents, and then choose where they want to be.
Sure, I can't I'm feeling very nostalgic. I joined as an RELP in 2019, and the exposure, the journey, the opportunities have been immense. Shankar, what's your take on the RELP program? What would you like to tell the students?
Completely agree with what Ananta said. I think there are very few companies out there in India who would provide this opportunity for young students to come and understand business. And I think this structure really well that you're not spending 1 or 2 months, you're not doing an internship, right? You're actually spending 6 months in one business, then choose some other business. And then you learn that. And you either choose one of them or you choose something else. That whole thing is there. In fact, over the last couple of years, I or my team have gone and pitched, right? Just like we pitch projects to our leadership, we have gone and pitched to RELPs to come and join our products.
Yes.
Right? That's the kind of opportunity that the students who join here have, right? Because
it's such a privilege. It's such a privilege.
It's a privilege. It's great you say that it's a privilege. It's fantastic because purely from a student perspective, you get to work on, let's say, petroleum. You get to work on new energy. You get to work on retail, geo. You finally choose your calling. You understand how business work. You understand what is it that really interests you, right? You may not. It's not that you just join something. Let's say you're not interested in technology and all, but you end up joining geo and then you repent later. That's not the case here, right? You actually understand the business. You understand what is it that as a company, as an organization, it does. You understand the business well and see whether it's your calling or not. And then it's 6 months in 2 different businesses, and then you take a final call. I think it's a fantastic mechanism that's in place. And as I said, I think very few other companies can offer such a program for young graduates to, right stepping stone, I would say, for people to come in and learn and, then get on.
Thanks, Shankar. Shridhar, what do you want to tell us students about RELP?
Yeah, actually, it's an envious program as far as I see, because I had to wait 5 years to move to 2 different functions. So here I've been given a choice to move to 2 different verticals or functions in 6 months. Absolutely. I mean, I think that should be there. I mean, quick rotations is what one needs at some point of time. And this program definitely gives that opportunity to quickly rotate around 2 different functions or verticals, know about it, and then get a chance to move on to a third or remain the same function. So I think it's absolutely a fantastic program. And honestly speaking, I had worked with a couple of RELPs, and I have always been envious of them, because after 6 months they move to a different role. So absolutely, I mean, I would really love to have been part of this, but no regrets now.
Thank you, Ananta, Shridhar, and Shankar, for such an insightful career conversation. We hope you have enjoyed too, and to all our viewers out there, we hope you found this discussion useful. We cannot wait to see some of your big ideas featuring in this season of the Ultimate Pitch. Guys, make most of it. In case you haven't already done so, head over to reliancetup.in and register now. All the best for a bright and long career ahead. Stay safe and have a good evening. Thank you, everybody. We are signing off.
Thanks, Jigyasa. Wishing the same to all of you. All the very best, everyone.
Thank you. All the best, everyone. Take care.
Thank you very much.